Left like I spent like the past few weeks on following people I never watched. Really? Maybe I should do that too. New game. Casual, standard, hardcore, Village of Shadows. Standard. First. Okay, what was better, first person or third person? Is third person better? I say first. All right. Hello, Miss. Hello, Graham. Welcome. How are you? How was your day, Graham? How was your day? I get that RE7 feel. Ah, all right. You're right. Go first person. Hopefully my shooting is better too. I am good. That's good. That's good.
A young girl went with her mother to pick berries for her
I am
father,
also doing good. I'm doing like great actually.
But the forest greeted them with a dark,
like this past couple of days, I've been
empty.
Really great.
Yet determined to find the berries, the rascal broke free from Mother's grasp and vanished into the trees.
Art style is like Tim Burton.
Mother's worried cries faded fast as the girl ran on, over vine and under branch, and into the forest deep. Feeling strange eyes upon her, the girl recalled Mother's scary bedtime tales, and her throat became bone dry.
Bone dry?
Then the Bat Lord appeared. He greeted her warmly and bit his own
Whose
wing.
voice is this,
Come, child, quench your thirst, he said.
Should I know?
So she drank the thick, dark blood
I don't
and
know.
smiled with joy.
I don't know a lot of voice actors.
Passing through the graveyard,
or actors.
menacing storm clouds
Ian
loomed,
actors.
and the air turned bitingly cold. The girl was shivering in her thin clothes. Then a dark mirror appeared, and with a click of his fingers, crafted mist into a beautiful dress. Come, child, warm yourself, he coaxed. So she clothed herself and smiled with joy.
I don't know. Is this even RE?
Across
This
waters
is
deep and
RE.
ominous she went.
I mean, I opened up Resident Evil and played it.
But hunger's grip
like
tightened and her heart grew heavy.
Oh, this is about
Then the Fish King appeared
what's his name, Evelyn?
and offered one of his many fins. Come, child,
Isn't it
eat
about
your
Evelyn?
fill. So the girl ate.
The voice
and
is someone in
smiled
7?
with joy once more. Continuing
Is it my wife,
she
Mia?
soon entered the forest's dark heart.
Is it Mia?
Then an iron steed appeared.
Mia's telling the story to Evelyn?
Golden gear. The creature said
This sounds like
nothing as
a story that you tell your
snatched
kid.
what she thought was
Also,
another
welcome in
gift.
June. Welcome. How are you? How are
The
you?
horse grew
Birth of Shen
angry
Lord.
and summoned the other monsters.
Should I make a lord
Terror
video?
filled the girl's heart as the wild wind rose around the beasts. Suddenly, a witch appeared, dark yet regal.
Yes.
Gifts we gave.
I've
but
actually
more
been thinking
you
about it.
took.
Yeah, it's Mia!
So more in turn is due.
I knew it.
In a blink, the girl was trapped.
Played a few sweaty games of Haiku on Roblox. Haiku? On Roblox?
There.
Oh my god.
She's asleep.
Actually, I've been seeing everybody play
With the
Roblox
creepy
recently.
story. She's only 6 months old.
Woman at the store said it was traditional.
Village of
A
Shadows.
local tale. Besides,
Ah, is that why
Yes, that's
Evelyn?
Because she doesn't understand it. Thank
Evelyn?
God. We moved here so that she wouldn't have to deal with any of that, remember?
there's nothing wrong with my memory.
Oh.
You're just being paranoid.
It's not...
Oh god, I'm
Never
paranoid.
mind. I'm sorry.
See MILF?
But I'm not paranoid. I'm just cautious.
Then, go
Bangable? What
cautiously
do you
on
mean
to bed.
bangable? Wait, that's Evelyn, right?
I'll finish dinner.
Okay, Mia.
It's okay, Rose.
Rose?
My mother doesn't want to remember it. I can't blame her.
What the heck is Rose? Hold on.
Say something?
Nothing. I'll put her down.
What the heck is Rose? Hold on, my mouse sensitivity is like so low. Can I change it? Game settings, display, controls, keep lighting. Is there a way to change my mouse sensitivity? I sort of got. Oh, right here. Is it 6? No, wait, it's even lower. Is it supposed to be lower? Or is it just me?
Don't get too close to me when I'm cooking, babe.
Okay. Rose is the daughter? Wait, so this is like in the future then? Like when I saved, after I saved her? Right? Okay, hold on. The sensitivity is driving me crazy. 2. What? Why do I not feel any different?
Once things warm up, we can go for a walk.
You're a child? I'm a child? Well, what happened at the end of 7? At the end of 7, we killed Evelyn. But then, like, I don't know what happened to Mia, though. Mia got turned back.
Too scary for you.
But then, if we kill Evelyn, wouldn't Mia be back to normal? Or something? No? Mia's medication, she's been on strict. Ah, so this is after the incident? Oh shit, she was! She was in a helicopter! Wait, was she? I don't remember, guys. I actually don't remember. I did not fail. No, 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 no. I did not fail. I got a good ending. Can't go here.
Gotta do a deep clean before Rose starts walking around.
A historical look into the architecture of Eastern European castles and keeps by George Trevor. Trevor? Oh my god. Your dog. Mom? Curtain closes on the Dolby gas incident. The committee completed the investigation on the 18 into the Dolby toxic gas leak in Louisiana in 2017. They concluded... Hold on. Somebody's knocking on my door. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Okay. Yes, you both escaped on the helicopter? Ah, I see. Okay, where was I? They concluded the deaths were caused by the leak of natural gas that had built up in the mud rock under the area. Jack Baker. Baker? But I hardly even know her. 57. His family who were exposed to the gas perished. Me! Oh my god! Ethan Winters. And his wife were also believed to have been nearby, but their current whereabouts are unknown. The entire area has been closed out by officials who believe it will be at least 10 years before the area is habitable again. Okay.
Everyone's forgotten about this already.
Annoying. Ethan Winters. Habitable. Habit. Never mind. I cannot read, guys! I'm illiterate! Also, you know, I was like... I was playing like Pokemon earlier today, like in the morning with my brothers, like battling with like Pokemon cards. And like the main thing about like battling with like Pokemon cards, like TCG, you have to like do a lot of reading, okay? And like I swear to God, I cannot read. I keep messing
There
up
you
the
go,
reading.
sweetheart.
And my brother was like, "Are you sure?
Don't
Read
you
it
worry.
again."
I'll be
Read
right
the
downstairs.
ability
Daddy
again.
won't let those weird fairy tale monsters get you.
Okay. All right, Rose. Wait, are you ready for shit to hit the fan real quick? Yes? Am I not? Rose is closed for tomorrow. Are you ready for FO4 trauma? What is FO4? What is FO4 trauma? Alright, continue. Actual streamer trauma? Oh, 4! Oh! Are you ready for trauma? I don't know. Is it? Okay. Rosemary Winters. Is this Rose's birth papers? Screening, hearing, vision, touch, reflex, sex. All results to no issues. Patient is good health. Results for additional fungal pathogen tests will be provided by the... Does she have the... Wait. Does she have the,
Rose
like...
is fine.
Rose's favorite toy. Is she also infected? Go
It's not
survivalist.
paranoia if they're really out to get you.
I didn't even get to read it. A heavy firearms manual for foiled comeback situations by Joseph Kendall. Oh, a wedding pictures. Oh, turn the page. I can't. Turn the page. Okay. Oh, this is her prego. She's prego. This is when Rose was born. Why the name Rose?
I wish it could stay like this forever.
Alright. Thank you for the redeem, June. Thank you. Yes. The sage mode eyes. Hold on, can I look around more before? Is that the only room? Is this the only room? Okay. I guess we go to the laptop. Alright. Because I like the girl named Rose and I told him, and they named her Rose. I see. February 6, 2021. Mia and I had another fight. I accidentally mentioned what happened 3 years ago and she blew up at me. We finally settled down our new life in Europe and can finally bring Rose up properly. But I still feel like a part of me is trapped in that hellhole back in Louisiana. I know Mia doesn't like to talk about it, but can we really just forget everything and pretend it didn't happen? Shouldn't we face what happened there so we can live our lives with Rose without it hanging over our heads? We owe her that much at least. I know Mia noticed too. She wouldn't have exploded like that at the hospital if she didn't care. Okay, and then I go back to Mia, right? Mia, my love. This is a very nice house. Not gonna lie. Kinda squishy, in my opinion. Oh.
Is she okay?
Sleeping like a baby. That smells good.
That looks
What's
good.
that?
Hands off, mister. It's churba de legume.
That looks
It's a
good.
local recipe.
Not gonna lie, I'm kind of
Wow,
hungry.
you've gone
Like
full
I haven't
native,
ate anything
haven't
all day.
Local wine, too. But if you're gonna keep sulking all evening, maybe you shouldn't have any. You really have to stop worrying.
It's just finding you in Louisiana.
I kind of miss Mia when she
pregnancy,
looked crazy.
Chris moving here, military training,
Like
it all
I didn't
happened so
recognize
fast,
her
you
because
know?
she's so pretty.
At least we're all together. You, me, Rose. Now, everything's gonna
Seriously, think we can just forget about what happened in Louisiana?
be... It happened so long ago. I don't understand why you are so...
What the hell? Did she
Mia,
just get shot?
Get down! Mia!
fine.
Mia. Oh, God.
This is trauma?
What the hell?
Sorry, Ethan.
No!
What?
Why?
What, Chris? What? Chris Redfield? That Chris?
Go move!
Our Chris? What?
All clear.
Nah, I'm not even traumatized at
my
the
daughter?
like. I'm not even traumatized at Mia getting shot. I'm traumatized that it was Chris that did it. What?
No.
Rose.
Get him out of here.
Streamer house. Oh, streamers get rated. House rated is fucked up, but yeah. Yeah, it really is. Holy cow. Chris? Oh my god! I didn't think we were seeing him this early.
Hey, Doc.
Hello, Mr. Winters. I've got your daughter's results back, and I'd like you to come in to talk about them. How about next Thursday, 4 o'clock?
No problem. We'll be there. That was the doc. She'll see us next week. Hey, now. Think positively, all right? We talked about this.
I know. We hardly talk about anything else. I keep telling you, it's not Rose that I'm worried about.
Well, then what are you worried about? Look, she's gonna be fine. I just know it. What else matters?
We matter, Ethan! You matter!
You matter.
You just
Mia, what are you talking about? Is there something you're not telling me? Come on, talk to me.
Oh my goodness, Mia.
Damn it. I have to take this.
Yes, Shen, you matter. Of course I matter. I'm made of matter. Oh, here I am. I'm gonna munch on some gummy bears while I play.
Jesus.
About damn time. What's your status? Is the package safe?
What are you talking about? Where's Chris Redfield? And Rose?
Who is this? This is a secure channel. You are not authorized to use
Wait, so is Chris the bad guy in this game now?
Fuck. What the hell happened here?
There's a no, maybe? Okay. Oh my god. Why is it Chris though? Why isn't it like Leon? Or Claire? Or Jill? Why Chris? Why is it always Chris? Or Ada, yeah, exactly. Or Ada. I feel like Ada will make a lot more sense. Kidnapping a baby, you know? But then, Ada isn't really a killer though. And Bingable? Oh, he's hot and Bingable? He looks so much older now too. Like he has a beard. And everything. Oh, Is it a dead crow? Oh! So much more dead crows? Oh! Is the hanging one? So many hanging dead crows. Is this gonna be like, oh shit. Is this gonna be like 4? Can't say anything. Oh, what the heck is that? The crow's just like me for real. The crows have definitely been playing too much Valorant. Welcome in, MP. Welcome, welcome. How are you? How was your day? But I would imagine Chris looking older. 8 takes place 12 years. 12 years after 5? Ah. 12 years after 5. Oh, a house? How did I get in? Did I break it? No? Oh, there's a door right here. Alright. Okay, this is too spooky for me. Goodbye, goodbye, MP. Goodbye, goodbye. Have fun. Okay. Water. Okay, so we have no water. No lights. Can I close the door? Nope. Okay. Oh dang, the pipes are frozen? Yeah, you're supposed to let it drip so it doesn't freeze. Oh. Somebody lives here. Old lady? But there's man clothes. Men's clothes. Oh. Do I go down to the basement? Oh! Taxidermy? Okay. Random table. I feel like somebody's gonna jump at me. Rotate. Okay. Coat lady? Or something? Whoops. My bad. Blood on the wardrobe. Rat. What am I looking at? It's gonna be behind me! Okay. Oh my god! Oh my god! Okay. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Did I leave? Uh-oh. Oh. No. Can I turn my flashlight off? Can I go back? Okay, I feel like I gotta keep going, right? Oh wait. I'm trapped. Wait, there's blood? I didn't even see this blood here. Only one way out.
What did all this?
Was it that one guy we saw running? Nothing. Wait, it's day now. W to climb over. Okay. I don't like this. Feels so much more
Where the
creepier
hell am I?
than Biohazard. Also, I have never seen like a single gameplay of Village, so this is new to me. Compared to like Biohazard, like I've always seen like the table, the dinner scene. Dead horse. Why is it always a dead horse? I guess you could say he stopped horsing around. Oh god. Thank you for the hydrate, Fates. Welcome in, Fates. How are you? How was your day? I got my water bottle here. How are you, Fates? It's been a while. I thought we were gonna play a game together. You never set up a day. Just got back from a tournament. Nice. Like you went to go see a tournament,
Maybe they're out.
you were competing. Hmm? Fresh soup. That looks kind of good. Kind of trashy here. Potatoes. Okay. Blood. I played. It was Blade Blade. Nice. Blade Blade. Cool. Pretty cool. Did you like get top, or did you get eliminated? Okay. Yes. Is it well? No, Shinobi. I see, I see. NT, NT. I'm sure you did great, Fate. You did your best. I didn't get top. I'm too nerdy for that. Ah, but is it okay? Not gonna lie, Blade Blade is kind of nerdy though, isn't it? I think it's kind of nerdy. Do not enter. What do you mean? It's Blade Blade. If anything, you were nerdy enough. Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly. Okay. Burnt down house. Can I look through here? What is this doing here? Wait, this is Rose's favorite toy. I mean, the other top, since Shen worded it that way. Ah! Oh! Oh, I mean, like, top plays, like... See, now you're being sussy. I wasn't even being sussy, okay? I was not even being sussy. Okay, okay. Anything here? This is locked. Shen is known for sus after all. Is there a map? Okay, I went here. Wait, did I miss this? I went here, I went to this house. I went to this house, I went to this house. This is also I'm playing Village. Goat's head. Why is it always a goat head? She is too sussy sometimes. Nuh-uh. Nuh-uh.
What happened?
Not me. Graveyard workshops. Ceremony site. It's almost suspicious. It's almost suspicious. A rug on the wall. I don't like this. I feel like this is too squishy. Compared to 4? 4 is like an open village. This is like a very closed knit village. You know? Locked due to missing homeowner. Okay. Okay. Chickens? Am I gonna find a golden egg? Oh. You know what? A poop in there is too cold. I wanna go over here. Oh, it's locked. Okay, there's a sink outside. Okay, can I break this? Just punch it, Ethan! Uh-oh. Am I locked?
Shit.
Fuck. Okay. NC. We're safe. I think. Oh. First aid med. Inventory. Wait, I have so much space now. What? This is like a drain, guys. Oh my god. So many slots. Some objects can be broken. Got it.
Did they just run out of the house?
Okay. Oh yeah, I broke the box. Yeah, I broke it. I got a med kit. Okay, skulls. Where's the same picture of the old lady? Oh.
No,
my god!
Friendly. Who are you?
No,
Who
it just
sent you?
scared me.
There was an accident down the road and... What's going on?
Oh my gosh, she is live! Welcome, little she, welcome. How are you? How was your day?
Oh no.
Damn, bro, ripped point blank.
Who is? What the hell was that?
You have a gun?
What?
Please tell me you have a gun.
No, why would I?
Oh, this is gonna be good. What do you mean?
Take it!
Who am I fighting?
Tell me it's out there. Hey, are you listening?
Wolverine? More chance screaming goes good? No! Can I take his gun?
What the?
Oh shit.
Dead body? Wait, there's more.
Wait, where's his gun? Oh, freaking Ethan. Why is your first instinct not to like take the gun?
Jesus Christ.
Do you like the fix, Chris? Oh my god, I do not. I mean, he looks better, yeah. But then, damn, I didn't expect Chris to like be the one who like, you know, like kidnap a child and kill his wife. Oh my god! Holy crap! Oh, look, it's Outlast again. Oh my god, look! My hand! What the heck am I fighting?
No.
Werewolves? Oops, my bad. Sorry guys, I freaked out. I panicked a little bit at the end there. I was confident, but then once he started coming at me, I panicked. Alright. Jesus. Not gonna lie, this is kinda like Outlast. Bolt cutters. Bro, it's like 40 to 50, I think. Ah. But then, oh, why is it always Chris? I wanna see Ada again. Okay. Oh, this is the house. Chem fluid? Oh, look, Daddy. When I played this game, the hardest difficulty, the first enemy took me 1 hour to kill. Really? This guy? This guy took you 1 hour to kill? No way. What the heck? That's crazy. I hope you enjoy your stay later at Lady D's castle. Ah. Lady D's castle. Lady D's. Lady D's. Lady D's. Oh. Never mind. Okay, double checking in case I'm missing anything. Nothing? Alright. Family photo. So I just call her Lady D. I don't know how to spell her full name. I don't know how you pronounce it either. Like, how do you even pronounce it? Dimitrescu? Dimitris? Is there anything over here? Game logic 101. Always check. Always go the opposite side of your main of your main quest in case you get something special, missing items, you know? Special items or loot, extra loot. Nothing? Is that the radio? That was the correct pronunciation? The first pronunciation? Ah, okay. RE7 took me 8 hours to beat, right? Oh, it took me 8 hours? I think 9 hours? Like 9 hours? Oh, a little bit longer than 9. This one should be longer? Is it? 7 was really short though, in my opinion. I kinda wish it was longer. What is that? Can I turn it? I keep hearing noises, bro. Barricade the door. Okay. RE8 look like RE4 remake preparation because of the village map. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like I'm like comparing this to like 4. And I'm like, oh shit. Oops. Like this is a lot creepier than 4. Where is it? Where did I go? Okay. What did I do? What the heck?
Surrounded. Damn it.
What did I do? Ah! Oh my god! Fuck! Oh shit! Ah! Kill me! Oh my goodness! Survive the horde? Fuck! I hate that. I hate surviving the horde. Hold on. Can I craft? No. How do I move? E? Oh, handgun ammo. Gunpowder rust. I didn't rust this scrap! Oh my god. It's not chem fluid and gunpowder anymore.
Over.
Turn this off! Oh my god.
If there are any survivors
Oh my
out there,
goodness.
come to my...
Open eyes, bullshit. Welcome, man. The archery. How are you? Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the stream. How was your day? Why not? I'm playing some Resident Evil Village. What do I do here? Do I just leave? Oh, that's open now. I have 7 bullets. It's locked from the other side. Okay. I hear something. He's right there. There's 2 right there. What'd I do? What's one right there? Wait, what do I do? It's all right there! Death fight? They're friendly trust? I don't trust you guys. You think I'm gonna trust you guys? No. Under? No? Oh god. Go ask them for goodies? You don't trust me? Sad, yeah, I don't trust you. No. Ah! Oh my god! Oh my god! I don't like this! I don't like this! No, please! Oh god! bad idea, but it's 2 a.m. and I'm bored. I'm gonna regret this so much. Okay. Terrible! Yeah, this is terrible!
Right. Extra nozzle pounces on you. Ooh, you're so warm.
Christ.
Couldn't help but notice your butt from across the floor. Nozzle you naked, you wake it to the hee.
That's terrible, terrible
Baby, you
woman!
so musty. Take me
I
home
can't
and
think.
make me yours and don't forget to stuff me. See me while my little baby
Jesus
tail.
Christ.
Boys, you kisses and lickies and neck. I heard daddy like these nuzzles and wuzzles are jazz. I'll be getting thirsty. Hey, I got a little itch. You think you can help me? Only 7 inches long. Please stop me. Pulse on your boy just like a lip.
Fire!
Got a hiccup, is this right? You don't see it coming.
Get it! That's it! Jesus Christ! Fire! Fire! All I have is a knife. All I have is a knife. Stabby time.
Okay, I know this is a really bad idea, but it's too early. And
There's so many screaming!
I'm gonna regret this so much. Okay, ready? Right. Extra nozzle pounces on you. Ooh, you're so warm. Couldn't help but notice your butt from across the floor. Nozzle you naked, you wake it to the hee. I'm so baggy as pencil, baby. You so
Yes, go
musty.
Ethan.
Take me home, penny, and make me
what?
yours, and don't forget to stuff me. See me while my little baby tail. Boys, you kisses and lickies and neck. I hope daddy like these nuzzles and wuzzles and jazz. I'll be getting thirsty. Hey, I got a little itch. You think you can help me? Only 7 inches long. Please stop me. Pulse on your boy
What is
just
this?
like my lips.
Let's go.
Better hit them with this very shit. You don't see it coming.
Why are you good at dodging? I'm dead! Oh shit, no! Run! What the hell is that? Crouch, Ethan! Crouch! Oh my god! Ethan, crouch, you little bitch! Ethan, crouch, you little bitch! Oh my god! What the hell is that big guy? What the hell is that big guy? Ah, oh my god! What do I do? Bro, you're too close to my face. Oh god. Welcome in, miss. Welcome in. Welcome in, homie. Welcome. How are you guys? How is everyone? Oh shit, it's so loud. You didn't die? Wow. It's the overcoming bomb. I'm surprised I didn't die either. He brushed his teeth. Congrats, you did good. Didn't die like a lot of people. Oh my god. Yeah, you were meant to fail. I was meant to fail. Ouch. Oh my god, my hand. Jesus Christ. Now he has the claw. Get it? Cause he has 3 fingers.
Wait, wait.
Granny? Shen, stab the red barrel. I am not gonna stab the red barrel. It's red for a reason. It has to be flammable. Just a little, like, flame right there. No, I'm not. You think I'm dumb? I am not gonna stab it. Can I go in here? No. Try it. I played it before, Shen. You can trust me. No. You think I'm dumb, guys? Pussy? Yeah, I'm a pussy.
And in death, we give glory.
Hello? You shouldn't be out here. It's not safe.
Boo? No, boo you.
Hey, can you hear me?
It's you, the child's father.
Child? Hey, wait. Do you mean Rose? Is she here?
Rose! Rose, yes. She is in great danger. Since Mother Miranda brought her to the village, we have fallen into darkness.
What are you talking about? The monsters?
Mother Miranda.
The castle bell heralds danger. They're coming.
No. Wait. Where's Rose?
Where's Rose?
Who's Mother Miranda?
The bell tolls for us all. They're coming.
God, she's gonna lock me here?
Rose is here?
Look for Rose. Old ladies in Resident Evil are so weird, right? It's so weird. They always talk so vaguely, you know? Like, just tell me. Okay. Weird circle. Chem fluid. Alright. Oh, great, lichens. Oh, is that what they are? Lichens? Aren't lichens like werewolves? The fabled monster wolves of old. May they come eat our flesh. May they come tear us apart. Ah. Okay. So they were werewolves. I see. Hopefully I'm not forgetting anything. Loot. Okay, Ethan Winters. V2 view map. The Maiden of War. What is this? Oh, that's the one, the gate. Here, you did a good job. Thank you. Thank you for the head pass. Bangable? Did you just say bangable to the old lady? Bangable to the old lady. Wait, hold on. Let me. Guess I just walk around. Ouch! What is this? I need a crank. Castle Dimitrescu ceremony site. I see. Oh look, looks like the cemetery from RE4. See, Ashley, Ashley. Not gonna lie, I just totally forgot Ashley existed. I named like every other character, Leon, Claire, Jill. Like totally forgot about Ashley. Oh, herb. Oh, can I craft? Another one? Ammo? Okay. Reload. To be honest, I can't forget about her because of her annoyance. I see. This is a quest? A crest? But she's not. Wait, what? But she's hot on the remake, so. No one would be my Ada Lee. Ada Wong, you mean? Church. Should disaster fall upon the village, seek out crest. One is in the care of the church. The other is at Louisa's house. Can I? How do I? Why is it sideways? Oh, there. Church, Louisa's house. Ah. Okay. I think I understand. Save. Where do I go? Hold on, let me look at my map. This is the church. Okay, we went to the graveyard. Louisa's house. Where's Louisa's house? Oh, it's past over here, right? Over here? Hold on, I want to keep looking around. The well. Oh wait, I was here. I remember this. The graveyard. Okay. You know what? We're just gonna go. How do I get to Louisa's house? What is this? It's locked. Another well? Okay. Handgun ammo? Okay, rusted scraps. Hold on. No. Okay. Mine? Where is it? I hear them. Jump over. Let me reload. It's somewhere. I know it's somewhere. I can hear them. Has to be there, right? But I don't see them. I'm gonna just hug the wall. Hugging the wall. I see. Oh my god! Is it dead? Can I just jump over? Oh my god, I can't. Okay, Ethan, oh god. Do it camping? know you're here. I know you're here. Come on. Come at me. Hmm? Oh yeah, you run away? Poking the wall. Anything here? Scraps? Nothing, 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 nothing. Come on. Come at me. I know you want a piece of this. Hmm? Come on. Oh my god. Come on. Yeah, I saw you. Yeah! Yeah, come on! Kick him, Ethan! Easy kill! Easy kill! You have no bullets! Oh my god! I almost did not see you. Let me in!
Shit.
Let me in! Let me in!
Close the door, please.
Bro, it's Chico Picky. Just
What are you
push
doing
them man to man. I think you mean man to liken. Haha. Huh?
Stay back.
Please, don't hurt us.
Whoa. It's okay. I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just glad to see normal people
Oh, look
at
at
last.
Cutie.
Have you seen any other survivors?
No. They're all in Louise's house. And she's not answering and the gate is locked.
Quiet girl.
Go to liken, you say?
Outsider.
I'm sad about this chick. Wait, why?
Oh.
Is she gonna die?
Shit, we're sitting ducks in here. Can your old man walk?
No. One of the monsters cut him. He's lost a lot of blood. We have to get into Louise's house.
Shh, quiet. Must be a way inside. Stay here. Be quiet.
She's
Don't
taken?
move until I get those gates open.
Oh. I don't have any. Oh wait, can I craft? No. Okay, that's fine. Anything here I could take? Find a way to Louisa's house. No, no, no. 12 handgun ammo. Take it, but bang a bus, I'll still go for it. I see, I see. Can fluid? Do I want to open that? What can I? Oh. I need a key for this? What are the crescents there? Oh, removing a screw. Okay. I need a screwdriver. Screwdriver? Can't.
Come on, it's clear.
Hurry! Hurry!
She's gonna die, huh?
Took your damn time. Oh, you're welcome.
He's not used to relying on other people. I'm sorry. We'll be safe in here, won't we?
Will we?
Safer here than out there, that's for sure. Hey, do you know anything about what's going on around here?
It doesn't make any sense. Mother Miranda has always protected us.
Nobody's answer.
Father? We have to get inside.
Is he gonna die? Lost
Just
on the other
hold on
side.
a bit longer, Papa.
How do I get to the other side?
There's so much blood.
Map. The well? Something about over here. Something about over here. How do I get over here? How do I get over here?
Hello? Anybody home?
Maybe a familiar voice. Louisa! Open up! It's me, Elena!
Oh!
Stop shouting. You'll draw the monsters.
Julian, calm down.
Who's this?
A friend!
Stay back.
Father! For God's sake, Julian, let us in.
No, they'll smell the blood. You'll endanger us all.
My father will
Who is
die out
he?
here.
That's not my problem.
What's going on?
These people want to let a dying man into our home.
Come now, these people are our friends. Go on, go inside.
Okay, that guy deserves to die.
You're not from this village.
No. I'm Ethan.
Julian, go make yourself useful and check the grounds. I said go!
I bet you he's gonna be one annoying character that will like survive the longest amongst everyone else.
And so do I. Come inside, Ethan.
That's some long gun. Yeah, very
Wait
big
here.
and girthy
I'll check
gun.
on the
huh?
others.
It's okay, you get to kill him maybe. I hate that too. Alright. Save number 2. Louisa! They broke in again. Got more of the livestock. I don't think we'll make it through the winter at this rate. Ernest is still missing too. We can't find him anywhere. Has Mother Miranda abandoned us? Mother Miranda. Oh. Okay. Pictures of the village.
This way.
Is she talking to me? Miranda.
Come inside, the others are waiting.
Okay.
The fuck is this? Outsiders, you're gonna get us all killed.
Quiet, Anton. He helped Leonardo and Elena.
We were doing fine by ourselves.
Please, Ethan, take a seat.
Is this all that's left? From your entire village?
All that's left. All that's left? There is no one left! A worthless invalid, a stupid, wailing bitch, and you! You drag a bloody man and an outsider in here like it's nothing, and expect to be all safe? There is no safe!
Okay, somebody kick him out. He's a Debbie
Sorry
Downer.
bastard out there has been ripped in half. But tomorrow we'll all be dead. Just like her damn husband. Put a sock in it, Roxana!
That's enough! This house has protected my family for generations. And drunk or not, you are all welcome and safe in here.
Whatever.
Can someone please tell me what
I
the
thought you were
hell
gonna say
is
he's a
going on
deadbeat
here?
dad.
We don't know.
Well, I don't really know if he
One
has
day
kids
we
or
were
not.
a quiet, devout village, and the
It's
next
a Debbie Downer.
the monsters came and
So
attacked us.
negative.
And they kept coming.
Wait, Louisa. Where is your husband? Did they?
No. No, he is out there. Somewhere. He went to get help. Yes, that's...
Was it the guy that
He
died?
went to fetch help.
Is her husband the guy who
For him. For
Who
all of
died?
us. Good idea.
in the beginning?
Come,
Ah!
gather. Great ones, hear our voice. Together as one in reverence, we call on thee within the endless dark to deliver us into fate's hands.
Okay, this is a
As
little
the
creepy.
midnight moon rises on
That guy's not even closing his eyes.
so
Where is he looking at?
Sacrifice and await the light at the end.
He keeps looking up.
In life
What the hell is he doing?
and in death, we give you glory, Mother Miranda.
He's moving so much.
Now, the tea should
I'll get to the cold shit.
Come help me, Elena, please.
That prayer, I've heard it before. There was an old woman near the graveyard.
Give me that. Bitch is crazy as a bag of rats.
There is wisdom in her devotion, though.
Welcome to the family
And I
shit.
hope it protected her as it shall protect us.
Wow, it's so welcoming here.
What are you doing?
Leonardo, what's wrong? Are you okay?
Oh my god, he's turned! He's turned! Mother Miranda! Father!
Elena, no, stay back!
No, let me go! Holy shit! I can't move!
Let him go!
Oh my god, who's that? Mommy?
Elena?
Mommy?
I said no!
Ma'am, you need to aim a little bit higher.
Oh my god. I'm so sorry, Father.
Hey, that wasn't your father anymore. You did the right thing.
But she became a badass. Damn, that's my girl. That's my
Elena, no.
girl.
There's nothing you can do.
Papa!
This entire place is collapsing. You couldn't save him.
Oh my god.
He was already gone.
Is she our Ada?
Leave me alone.
No, we're getting out of here. Together.
I mean, at least she can hit the enemy like a certain goal, or unlike a certain goal.
I gotta
Wow.
get out of here.
Haha. Wow. Thanks. I really appreciate that comment you just did. What is this button I'm hovering over? Is it BANNED? I would have left Nia and Rose for her. Oh my god. Anything here? Hold on. Give me a few minutes. What's her name? Wait, what is her name? I don't think I remember her name. Did she even say her name? Because I have no idea what it is. Herb. Nothing here, nothing. Money? 500 lei? What is the lei? Like, what currency is that? Chili peppers. Oh, truck key. Examine items in more detail so you... Okay. Oh. Screwdriver! Nice! Okay. Take the screwdriver out of the key... Okay. I was supposed to read that before. Okay. This part took me ages to find a key. I can't... It was just in the drawer. What do you mean?
Damn,
how do you miss
the fire's
it?
moving fast.
How do I... That's my girl. Truck key.
What are you thinking?
Step back. We can bust out with this.
Okay. Why don't you just get in the car with me? I am so confused. Why are we going forward instead of backwards?
Ethan, are you alright?
I'm fine. Let me back up again.
The fire. There isn't any time.
Why? Why did we go forward instead of backwards?
Nowhere to go but up.
What? I'm so confused.
Grab on. Hurry.
To break the door, but like
Let's move.
behind us, we could have just like
Don't
escaped,
worry. And try not to breathe in the smoke.
right?
I know.
It was just like
Thank you, Ethan.
it was just like a wood wall behind us.
You're
you know?
kind. I hope your family is safe.
I do too. Once we get out of here.
And it's a hard brick
It'll
wall.
hold.
But the wall we crashed into was a hard brick wall.
There. That's our way out.
Thank God. But what then? The village is still full of monsters. We can't fight them. There's too many.
Hey.
The front has more weight
Hey,
to
don't
ram
talk like that.
through
We'll
because
find
of
a
the
safe
engine
house to
block.
put you in until I can find my daughter. My hunch is she's in that old castle.
No. That place is full of nothing but blood and death. And I don't want to be alone while you're... Father?
Elena, no. That's not him. Not anymore.
He said my name. Father!
Wait, it's not safe.
Elena? Her name is Elena? Oh, girlie. You are pathetic, man! Get up!
Come on. Give me your hand.
Ethan, go. Save your daughter.
Elena, don't give up. Reach for me. God damn it.
Oh my god.
Why is everyone dying on me? This is just too much.
I said for her, then I realized she was a clone of dead NPCs. I don't care if she was a she was a clone, because you're the MC, Ethan.
Don't get it.
Okay, anything here? Okay, Ethan.
This place is going mad. Why the fuck is this happening again?
I forgot he had 3 fingers. He has 3 fingers. Can I go here? No. Okay, to the castle I go. Okay, crest. Where's the castle though? Is over here? Lock? The castle's over here, right? So I just gotta go straight. Follow the path straight. Graveyard? What the heck is that?
Who's there? Stop!
Oh, you're gonna love Duke? Duke?
Hey!
Who are you? Is that a lady I hear?
Who was... What was that?
That was kinda... That was the... That sounded kinda hot. That laugh. Miranda? That's Miranda? Lady Miranda? But she's dead. You can run for it. I hear bells. It's terrible.
Death. Yes. Death has visited them all.
I got automatically stating fingers because you said fingers in. Okay, yeah. straight ahead. Church. Wait, I could put this here.
Guess this leads to the castle.
Okay. And then like this. Did you know Ada Wong almost made his appearance on RA, but this really why?
Nothing but blood and
I
death.
feel like Ada being in here makes so much more sense. Yellow string. Saying, hey, not my fault. Alright, Mom. Oh? Food? I need a...
Well, well.
Hey,
Didn't
who are
think anyone
you?
was left. You must be pretty tough. Huh.
Who the fuck are you?
Oh, you're not local.
He looks kind of familiar. Like he's from another game.
Mother Miranda's gonna love you.
The heck, he has powers? I don't know, we were sad about it. She was supposed to raid the house. Ah! I think you finished that game, there should be some unfinished artwork of what Ada would look like.
Whining. We're almost
But they
there.
decided that they would make it an Elena instead. A young Markiplier. I see, I see.
The man is of no real use to anyone else, and my daughters do so love entertaining foreigners. Furthermore, I can assure you if you entrust the mortal to House Dimitrescu, my daughters will be at liberty to find
Ugly! I want
What the heck is going on?
He's awake!
Brother, shut the fuck up!
What?
What the heck is going on?
You mean you'll screw around with him in private? Where's the fun in that? Give him to me, and I'll put on a show that everybody can enjoy.
Ugh, so gauche. What do we care for bread and circuses? The man thinks
like the Addams
suffering
house.
is assured.
Yeah,
The Addams
yeah, 'cause
family?
the man's dick is cut off in the castle, blah, blah, blah.
I've heard all your arguments. Some of you were less persuasive than others, but I've made my decision. Heisenberg, the man's fate is in your hands.
Mother Miranda, I must protest. Heisenberg
From zombie
is
virus
but
turned
a
into
child,
freak
and
virus.
his devotion to you is questionable. Give the mortal to me, and I will ensure he is ready.
Shut your damn mouth! And don't be a sore loser! Go find your food somewhere else.
Quiet now, child. Adults are talking.
I'm the child. You're the one who's arguing with Miranda's decision.
You wouldn't
Lady,
know responsibility if it was well.
Oh, keep glory! One day your head will actually fit your ego!
Hey, don't I get a say in this?
Silence! My decision is final.
I don't mind getting stepped on by Lady D.
Remember from whence you came.
Thank you. Huh.
Like it.
Lycans and gentlemen, we thank you for waiting. And now let the games begin. Let's see. Ethan Winters.
Okay,
Get
sir.
ready. No! 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3,
Just jump!
2, 1. Showtime!
He got a Lucas personality. A Lucas.
Jesus Christ!
Gotta go fast. Gotta go fast.
Right. Run for your life.
Gotta go faster, faster. Oh my god, he does have a Lucas personality. Making me play games.
Very nice, Ethan.
Holy crap! Okay.
You're still alive?
I'm in the desert.
Impressive.
Uh-oh. Okay. Can I jump over that?
Shit! My word. You truly are as strong as they say.
Can I break this?
You don't think I'd let you get away?
Break out!
Gotta keep Donna and Moreau entertained. So now it's time for the beautiful, blood-soaked grand finale.
Can I stay here?
Nothing like fresh American ground beef!
He thinks I'm dead?
Too close. Wait, do those freaks have Rose?
This is 300 lei. Handgun ammo. I don't have a gun. Oh, I do have a gun now. Okay. Oh, there's a dead body here. Okay. What the? How'd you have a mine ready? I found it. I found it on the ground. Like in the very, very beginning. Yeah. Oh? Wait, I'm back here. No, she's hacking. I'm not hacking. Okay, scarecrows. Scarecrows, but they're not even scaring the crows away. Okay. Hey. That's it. Up to the castle we go. They're meant to scare us away. I see.
I've been waiting for you, Mr. Winters.
Who are
How do you know my name?
Anyone who is anyone has heard of the likes of you. A hero searching for his daughter.
Is he supposed to be like
I must
Humpty
say,
Dumpty?
that castle arouses suspicion.
It's the Duke? The Duke!
And so do you.
I am but a humble merchant.
Here?
Oh, forgive my manners. Call me the Duke. Now to business. Weapons, ammunition, healing salves, anything you desire, I can provide.
Oh,
good. I was just thinking I have something special today.
Oh, it's kind of cool. Everything has a price. Supplies. I have 900. Extra baggage. Handgun ammo. Is this a better gun? Is this my red 9? Ammo. Parts. Weapon charm. Okay, mag. Hair trigger. Gunsmith. Ooh. There's a modified pistol, so yes. Ah. Him and Merchant know each other, which is cool. Oh! The same gun that Chris had on RE7. Ah! Okay. I see. Lenny. How can I upgrade? 6K? 6K? Are you kidding me? Crystal Skull. Wait, How do I sell? 900. First aid, let me.
To think I would buy such things.
Wait, did I need a skull? I don't, right? I sold it.
This is all an investment, Ethan.
Wait until you have Chris's gun. Ah, okay. No, we're just gonna keep it as
Do
is.
let me know if you find anything else of value.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In the castle we go. Let's go, castle! Castle's your favorite part? January 5th, Redneck delivery. 1 of the male, 3 females. January 28th, Mother Miranda meeting the mistress Dimitrescu. February 1st, the Duke business discussions. Welcome, Miss Sunso. Thank you for the redeems. Thank you, thank you. It's everyone's favorite part of the game. Ethan just breaking vases. Yeah. $3. Bella, Cassandra, Daniela. Well, look at this pretty, like, rococo painting. Very nice, very nice. Very nice indeed. Can I break this? Gunpowder? Can I make more ammo? Alright. Make another one. I'm stacked. Hello, hello. How is you doing? I'm doing good. I woke up before stream and started streaming. Yep. How are you, Senso? How are you? They look pretty when they're infected, not gonna lie. what do you mean by that? Hold on, I don't wanna go over here. Can I go over here first? Can I save? There's no save slot here. Nothing happens. Okay. USC? Alright. Alright. Okay, that door is locked. Not gonna lie, this is a pretty nice place. Shotgun ammo. Okay. You encountered 3 more ladies? The 3 daughters? Which one's this one? Daniela? Oh, I just heard a scream. You can make a brothel. Imagine having a house like this. I would love a house like this. If I ever like buy myself a house, I want it to be like very like Renaissance, like old money houses, you know? Locked. Wait, can I go in here? Oh. What is this? Oh. Oh, what is this? Norstein? No, Norstein? How do you say that? Norstein Labyrinth. A craftsman of the late 19th century, Norstein was branded a heretic in his homeland. He wanted the village. He wanted the lands until he settled in a remote village. Norstein then created 4 labyrinths: the castle, the house on the hill, the water wheel, and the iron tower. Upon their completion, he put a gun to his temple and took his own life. Ooh. Each labyrinth is unique and requires its own specifically crafted metal ball to operate. Each one contains crystallized human remains, which are said to be Norstein's 4 beloved wives. 4 wives? Sheesh! Could it be me? The labyrinths are their graves. Ah. Okay, I need like a little ball or something. Okay, crystal head. Castle. This is actually pretty cool. Okay. Wait, did I check this door already? I did, okay. Go. Am I gonna meet her here? Oh, it's locked. Wait, then where do I go? Did I just leave? Mask the angels. Wait, I didn't even get to read it. Ew, bug! Wait, is that them? Wait, they are kind of hot. Ooh.
Man blood.
Oh! Is that Oh my goodness! Oh my god, I'm a little
Mother,
flustered right now, guys.
I bring
you fresh prey.
You are so kind to me.
Oh.
girls.
Just literally a moth that removes the bugs.
Now, let's take a look at him.
That's insane.
Well, Ethan Winters. You escaped my little brother's idiot games, did you?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's see how special you are.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, mother.
Yes, mother.
Yes, ma'am. Just enjoy the view. Actually, I like it. Oh! Oh, hey! Hey! Okay! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Starting to go a little stale.
Oh my god!
Let's devour his man flesh quickly,
That's
Mother.
kinda...
I am the one who captured him.
Now, daughters.
That's kinda...
First, I must inform Mother
Oh my
Miranda.
god! I like that.
Later, well, there will be enough for everyone. Udama.
Hey, wait.
Oh! Oh. Okay, no, that's what I heard.
Oh, be careful. What
Oh,
you
the
wish
fan
for.
service is wild. The fan service is wild. Of course, it's the bird's eye view.
What are you doing?
Crazy. Is that voice? Oh my god. How tall is she? She's really tall. Wait, if I'm in the bedroom? Hey yo. It feels like I've seen something like this before. In a manga. in a hentai. How do I get out? Everyone's really tall for you. Shut in. I'm 5'11". Okay, guys. You're in her room.
I gotta
Snoop,
get out of here
find
before
panties.
they come back.
Panty stealer. Panty thief. How do I get out? Oh. This gotta hurt. Oh my god. Oh my god. Ew! It's slicing my hand. Oh god.
You crazy witches.
Fine, 11. At least tell a believable lie. If that voice came off of 5'11", I'll lose my voice. Yeah, you want me to give you a mommy voice? I'll give you a mommy voice. Is this... Is my voice... Is my voice deeper? Okay. Anything here? No? Nothing. No, please, for the love of God, no. Do I just leave? Oh? Is this a robe? Oh, and gloves? Oh? An easy to pick lock. Okay. Wait. Do I go here? Let me look around first. Nothing? Nothing? It's locked from the other side. Okay. Guess we go here. I apologize, viewers. Sniff a rope. I would if I could. Okay. I would if I could. Oh. Wait, how do I... Rusted scrap. Is that a maroon eye ring? Can I? Where am I? Oh! Okay. Gunpowder. Anything else here? What is this? Crystal fragment. I see. Wait, hold on, let me bring my gun out. I'm gonna take some nappy, enjoy your castle, torsion, don't get caught by those ladies. Thank you, Toshi, thank you for the like. Have a good nap. Make sure you lock your doors,
we meet
lock
again.
your windows, lock your closet,
Duke?
cause I'm gonna learn.
Why are you here?
Where there's coin to be made. And have you found your daughter?
No.
Get caught, please. Hang me up again.
She is truly here, the lady of the
I gotta go
castle
too,
would
Lurk.
kept
Have a good
little
stream.
Rose
Thank
in
you.
her private
Thank you. Thank you
Would
for
she
coming
not?
by.
Don't
Make
trust.
sure you lock your doors, lock your
very
windows,
same.
lock your
Why
closet,
don't
because
you
I'm
take
gonna
a look?
lurk. If I ever see you in
lucky.
person, I'm gonna follow you
And
home.
speaking of looking, care to make a purchase?
Bye-bye.
If it's just looking, window shop away.
Can I sell this? 2K? Crimson glass. Yes.
Your coin.
7K. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna upgrade my pistol.
Leave this to me.
Yes. 3, 2, 4. Okay. What is this? 8?
I'm skilled at all sorts of weapons
Supplies.
modifications, and will do them for a small fee. Thank you for your
No, thank you.
patronage.
Okay, where to go? Where do I go? Find Lady Dimitrescu's chamber. Lady D's chambers. Wait, this is open now. Her chamber? Chamber? But I hardly even know her. Okay. Let me look in this room first. Okay. Loot? Nothing? Lock on the other side. What about this door? Is this door also locked? Unlocked? Okay. Nothing here. I don't want to go downstairs. Oh, this is the front of the house. Okay. Thank you so much for the sub. Thank you for the sub. Thank you so much for the sub. Welcome in, Yui. Thank you for the 10 months. Thank you. you so much for the sub. Oh yeah, I've been here already. Ah, okay. That door is locked. The only way is up. Up we go. Left or right? Hold on, is this door locked? The wine room? The wine room? Hi, how are you guys? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I started village. It's been really fun. Actually, the beginning was so scary. The village part was so scary. I'm not gonna lie. How are you, Yue? How are you? How was your day? Not really? Yeah, really. I think it was just because I was getting chased. I hated it. The winemaking techniques of Castle D can be traced as far back as the 15th century, long before the current occupants of the castle. Alcina Dimitrescu? He's saying that name. Why is it so hard to pronounce? Alcina D uses this legendary yet particular technique to enrich the wine's flavor intensity and bestow it with a thick bouquet. Her best vintage is Sanguis Virginis. Meaning maiden's blood. It is kept in a special ornate bottle decorated with intricate silver flowers. I see. So I gotta put a bottle there? I see. A bottle. Yeah, she was getting chased by men creatures. By werewolves! Okay, werewolves. By lichens. It was creepy, okay? They just like pop out of nowhere. Oh, wait, this is... Oh! Oh, I can't use that. Wait! Oh, hold on. Can I look at it? What is this? Is this the mine? Ah! There we go! Maroon eye! Okay. Hold on, let me break this first. Oh! Oh! But that she is being hunted by 4 hot ladies. Yeah, they're like sisters. They're really hot though. They're like goth mummies.
I haven't cut open a man in a while.
Goth mummies!
Let me string you up, slice your jugular.
Goth mummies!
And just watch. Taken alive, dead, which would you prefer?
Let me out!
You will look wonderful mounted in our hall.
Where'd it go? Okay. June 9th, 1958. It was my first day working at the castle today. I was almost shocked to see the other staff were all women. The mistress and her daughter was very adamant that they wouldn't bite. It was quite particular. June 23rd, 1958. It's been 2 weeks since I started working at the castle, and I'm a little afraid. Another maid, Adela, made a mistake, and Miss Daniela slashed her face with a knife. At night, I can hear wailing as if ghost roams the hall. I want to go home. July 8th, 1958. I don't know what to do. The young ladies were complaining it was too hot and stuffy during dinner, so I opened the window just a crack. Shut it! Shut it now! They all shriek at me in unison. I fear I may be taken down to the cellar, never to be seen again. To be seen of again. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do! Oh my god. Okay, cellar. We go to the cellar then? Wait, wasn't I in this? Oh no, never mind. I was in the bedroom. It's a clue. Oh. Wine. Oh? A hole? Oh? Oh my god, I'm being a perv! Am I being a perv right now in hentai? How dare you call her bedroom seller? Well, you know, I remember getting hung up. That's the bottle I need, right? The crimson bottle with diamond or silver lining, right? Imagine being so tall you had to duck your head under the frame. The heck are these? These baby chickens? Quails? Okay, anything here? Oh, wait, I missed something here. Handgun ammo. Okay. Cellar. Oh? What even is this room? The torture room? Trust and light. If I turn this off, then what happens? Oh! 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 Oh, wait! I'm so smart. There's no light here. Oh, the torture room? Not gonna lie, I didn't even know I was supposed to do that. I was just hitting it in case. The toilet? Okay. Load. Anything here? No? Help me, brother. Torture room. Kinky. Okay, this cell just opened. Am I gonna get trapped here? Ew! Poop. All you did was play around. I got it accidentally. Yeah. It's called Shenluck, okay? Shenluck. Storage? Syringe. More syringes. Nothing of news here? No, nothing. Oh shit! It's a dead body. Oh my god, he ain't got no legs. Nothing? Do I just keep going? Irina. Robust appetite. Oh. Mihaela? Robust appetite. Lois? Robust appetite. Ingrid. Unstable. Overly alert at times. Okay. Oh my god. What's that noise? Is that another lichen? What's this scrap? What's this? Metal scrap? Oh! die! Why are you guys so hard to kill? Where's that? Oh. Okay, anything here? Anything here? What is this? Wait, I didn't even notice there was a... Okay, whatever, here's fine. Pipe bomb? Ew! Do not fight me without permission, please. Oh god. Okay, nice. How many are there? Oh my god, I'm sorry, I reset the gun. She did? Wait, no! Did they just come back to life? Wait! Have I just been killing them? Have I just been killing the same people? I'm so confused. Ah! Oh my god. Oh my god, sorry. Get me out of here! We lose! Okay. Okay. Craft items. 15 bullets.
I can't believe Cassandra caused all this mess.
Oh! My bad. Ah! Oh yeah. Oh yeah. How to escape?
Which tools do you prefer?
Either. Where'd I go? Are you sure? They got out!
Don't cause me trouble. A healthy man's blood.
Ow!
I can't wait.
How do I escape? She blocks me every time.
Squeeze the blood out when they're alive, and it's that much sweeter.
Yeah. I just need her to like follow me, right? Come here. Mommy, come here. Okay.
You're tonight's main dish.
Pick it up! She did it! Oh, she's always moaning.
Warm blood.
Oh my god. What's this? Shotgun ammo? Chem fluid?
Where are you going, little one? Bullets cannot harm.
Who's that?
You stupid man thing!
Man thing? Leave me alone! Oh.
I
kiss you already, no?
You bastard!
Honey!
How dare you bare your teeth at us!
Get away from me!
I don't believe it.
Okay. Nice. Nice. I'm just that good. The nose a clue, I told you. I think I remember. Okay, I got a bottle. Nice. Sanguis Virginis. Wait, is she dead for sure? I think she's gonna come back to life now. Rusted scrap. What is this? Can I attach it? Okay. Easy to pick lock. Am I missing anything here? No, nothing. Oh, close the window. Oh, that's right. I thought she was just being a like a girly. And here. This place is so huge. And I'm here. Where's the dining room? Can I go here? No, I need a key. Okay. The merchant's room. Entrance hall. Bed chamber. 4 angels bust. Okay. Which room is the room that it was upstairs, right? Can I go here? Wine room? There. Sanguis Virginis. Secret tunnel! Secret tunnel! Can I make more ammo? No? Okay. Courtyard key. Courtyard key. That means I can use it for that door, right? Down here, right? Right?
Shall I give you the tour?
No. Get away from me! Wait, did I go here? I've been here before, right? Oh, yes, I have. Stop. I'm outside. Where do I go from here? Okay. Oh, we're still looking for chambers. Keys. Locked door. What this door? Chem fluid. Okay. Can I break this? Nothing here? No?
What have you done
Oh
to my daughter?
Fuck, it scares me. Okay, I need a key. Oh, map! That's a map. Okay. Oh, his chamber is right there. Hall of Abolition. What? Oh my god, bloody pool. Oh my god, this reminds me of like Baldur's Gate. Cause there's this one scene in Baldur's Gate where like, you could you could like have sex with like the devil. He has like a pool in his room, and it's like bloody. Oh, it's not bloody, but like it's just a round pool like this. So fun. I miss it. Secret tunnel. Wait, do I go here? Where do I go? Oh wait, I have to go here? Wait, what am I doing here though? Women are blind to male advances, but the poor shall take their chances to give their lord their bounty sown, so that soon the wine may flow. Am I supposed to do something? Soon the wine. Oh. Turn the statue. Oh. Hold on. What was it again? A blind to male advances, but the poor shall take their chances to give their lord the bounty sown, so that soon the wine may flow. Sky like this? I don't get it. Oh. Can I move her? No? Okay. Bro, look at this toilet. Oh. Down we go. It's a goat! Look at this! This is so cute! Can I stab it? Oh, okay.
the hell?
It's bloody here. Thank for the redeem! It's Silent Riot! Thank you! Well, welcome in. How are you? How was your day? Playing some Resident Evil 8 right now. Okay, I follow the road confidently. Handgun ammo. Okay. Ah! Oh my god! Fuck! Jesus Christ! Was so emotionally exhausted. Never played this, but watched lots of people play it. Oh, nice! Oh, your day gets better. My day was pretty good. It's been pretty good the past couple of days. I don't know why. Like, nothing bad has happened. That's probably why. But this was my first time playing this game. My first playthrough. Okay, to school. Should I close it? No, right? This is my only way here. Oh. Actually, it's not. Oh, but it's fine. Okay. Okay. Okay, they're dead. These are dead people. You're not gonna grab me, right? Oh my god. Why do you just wait? Take care. No? Gunpowder. Hold on. Okay. More ammo. Stop! Oh my god! Hey, nice! Nice. I'm cracked. Okay, more ammo. Okay. Is this a chamber? Oh. Yeah, come at me! Come on! I'm better! I'm rich! Herb. Should I go over here? Okay, her chambers is over here. Then what is over here? Oh, okay. Could save. Can I go here? No? Jump! It's a jump! No way she doesn't see me! I thought she's so thick. She's looking at me straight through the mirror. Does she not see me?
I regret to inform you that Ethan Winters has escaped that fool Heisenberg. Because he is in my castle and has already proven too much for my daughters to handle. When I find him...
She's giving you the underboob?
Mother Miranda?
She knows you're there?
Yes, of course. I understand the importance of the ceremony. I won't let you down.
Sheesh! Oh my god!
Hell with the ceremony! That man...
Wait, she just had multiple outfits
done.
of the same... Like, multiple copies of the same outfit. That's crazy. I'm going.
Rose, where are you?
Okay, I can't go here. I need a key for this. And I can't go here either. Oi! What's this? We were all called by Mother Miranda to decide the fate of the child's father. Just thinking of that family, quote-unquote, meeting makes me shudder. To think I am treated like a sister to those miscreants? Especially Heisenberg. Heisenberg? That riffraff wouldn't know proper manners if they slapped her in the face. I would have sliced him into ribbons if Mother hadn't stopped me. Why? Why does he treat me like... Hold on, wait, let me retry this again. Why? Why does he treat me the same as them? She gave me this castle, obedient daughters, everlasting life. Did she not? Am I not her favorite? Am I not special? I need a drink. Oh my gosh, she said it right. What, Heisenberg? Heisenberg? I know the word Heisenberg. Isn't there a character named Heisenberg? Okay, now where do I go? If I can't go here. Oh, do I drop down? I for sure don't have a key for this. You're locked on the other side. No, miscreant. Ah! Oh, wait, what's this? Ah, that's right. I saw her put a key there. Miscreant. So many big words, guys.
Oh, shit.
Oh.
There you are. All this for a child who isn't even here.
What the hell, dude?
Wait,
You
Rose is not my
ungrateful,
child?
Selfish wretch. You come into my house. You lay your filthy man hands on my daughters. And now you even try to steal my property. How dare
Roses? Oh.
Rest while you can. Because
But technically not.
Hunt you, and I will break you.
Is it because she's like infected or something? She has the her mother's
do
blood,
your worst.
like the monster blood in her. Before I leave, let me load gunpowder. Not quite. Ah. Slam me again, mommy. Open sesame. You know what I learned recently? When people say open sesame, they're not saying like sesame like the seasoning. They're saying sesame, like open sesame. I didn't know that. This whole entire time I've been saying open sesame, like Sesame Street. You're not. I'm not the only person though. Okay, like I like a lot of other people say it like that too. Yeah, I just figured out. It's not just me, okay? You know, I was looking it up, and like a lot of other people thought it was sesame too. Okay. Open sesame. Oh. Hello, Chad. Welcome. done, no. It's done, no. Please tell me if I'm saying your name right. Welcome. Welcome to this chat. Welcome to the stream. My name is. I'm really bad at introductions. My name is Shinobi the Goat. Oh, wait, I'm a goat. Right now I'm playing. Where did I go? Oh my god. Right now I'm playing Resident Evil 8 Village. Okay. Open! Leave me alone. Oh my god. Let me in! Okay. So thank you for the follow! Thank you for the follow! Thank you for the follow! Welcome! You are a very good person. Where did I go? Where did I go? Oh my god, mazes? Why is there a maze? Oh, down here? Who got the points to do the thing? What thing? There is no thing. I don't know what thing you're talking about, Chaos. What thing are you talking about? There is no thing. You unlocked it. Okay. Is she gonna
Running will get you nowhere!
Also, see, you run faster than R7. Yeah, I noticed that too. Like in the beginning, not only am I running faster, I'm like running a lot longer too.
Good.
I'm sorry I can't stay much longer today.
Man,
It's 4 AM for me and I had to sleep. That's okay, that's okay. I stream really late. So it's like not a big deal. Oh! Where's my gun? Yeah? You wanna fight me? Come here. Can I take your sword? I want a sword. Oh god. I can open this now. Escape the castle. Escape the castle. Okay, another map. It's locked on the other side. Honestly, you've been giving hints to the big twist of this game. If you've been paying attention. Have I? I don't know if I've been paying attention or not. I've been trying to survive. Please be aware the mistress lipstick is missing. If anyone finds it, they could please return it to her bathroom. It's a custom made and therefore very expensive. Grand chambermaid. Lipstick. A red lipstick. A red lipstick. Red lipstick. Opera Hall? Can I go over here instead? No? I need a key. Okay. This subtle, but once you know it, you realize. Ah, I see. It's all hints and lore. I love lore. Okay, I see you. There's another one here, right? Okay. But she barely listens to the people, so... I'm listening! I'm paying attention! Okay. Gunpowder. This is flower swords bow. Okay. else? As if she remembers the notes. You know, that is true. I'm hoping her Dory minds remember randomly. I will remember, okay, guys? You know, this is just a bit I'm doing, okay? I played the airhead bit, okay? I'm not always stupid. Come on, guys. 260. Okay. So note here, piano. We'll look at that later. No, but I was disappointed. Scientific name? None. Size? 5 to 6 centimeters. Oh. Similar body structure to blowflies. Okay, although there are differences in the head, they are carnivorous and vigorously consummate. Okay, in order to catch unsuspecting prey, they gather using pheromones to mimic a human. They are produced when a cadole lay eggs in its host, but the flies themselves are unable to reproduce. Flies? Oh, the sisters! Oh, okay. They're weak to sudden drops in temperature, especially if the temperature drops below 10 centimeters, 50 Fahrenheit degrees. Centimeters? Oh my god, Celsius. Did I say centimeters? What the heck? Celsius. The metabolism lowers and they go into a dormant cryptobiotic state, similar to the cryptobiosis of the tardigrade or polydiline. Okay, what the hell is this fucking word? Polypedilium vanderplanki. What the heck? Are these like actual words or like? I need to know. Are they actual words or is it made up? Yes, they are. They're actual words. God damn. Goodness gracious. Okay. Wait, this is where I came from. We go into that door. What is... Can I play this? Choose key. Oh. 1, 2, 3. Oh. You uneducated turd. Okay, I'm not nerd, okay? I'm not nerd. Oh. Iron insignia key. Iron insignia key. Iron insignia key. What? What is the... Oh, for the door. Okay.
You disgusting outsider.
No. Oh. Is she gonna follow me? No! She can cut across! Oh god! I thought she was gonna walk around it. Like every other NPC. Open!
So you finally came to see me. everyone falls for me in time.
No, 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 no. Ow! Let's have some fun. Still wait to open the window?
It's not breaking.
Stop breaking! God.
Poor man thing. No place to run.
How to break that? How do I break that? Oh my god.
Bad boy. You can't go anywhere.
I don't know. What?
You wanted to see me? I did too.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. What am I not doing wrong? Wait, what am I doing wrong? Oh god. Oh god. Oh, there you go.
Ow! So mean.
Yeah, you like bad boys? Oh.
Why are you doing this?
Where did you go? Come here.
Why? Why would you do this? A dream. This is a dream.
Come here.
Damn. It's so cold.
Where is she? Where is she? Where is she? Come here.
I don't want to die.
Nice. Okay. Oh no, no, don't hit me. Oh, what pretty face you have.
I'm sick of bugs.
She texted a US voice. You heard her. I just want to know, okay? I just want to know. Okay, you know, anything I do is not my fault. Gaslighting is real. It really is. Okay, this door. Anything here? No, 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 no. No, she attacked me first. You know, it's self-defense. Bill? Oh. Let the 5 bells of this chamber ring out. Ring out? Ringer? But I hardly even know her. 5 bells? Where's the rest of the bells? Is it not in this room? In this chamber, ring out. This specific chamber? What exactly is a chamber? I assume a chamber is a room, right? Like a bedroom? Oh.
Cassandra! Come here now!
Where is she?
Enough games! I want that man's head! Now go!
Of course, Mother. Oh. Mother? God. Oh! No, don't come here. No. You wanna fight me? Come here. Come back to this room. Come on. The same room I killed your sister, you know? Come here. Okay. Well, where have I not gone? Here? The portrait? Wait, this is this room, right? 5 bills. 5 bills. No, come here. Shed might not like it, but I do. Okay, buddy. Okay, we're just gonna follow the... Actually, I don't know. Where have I not gone yet? I didn't
Play
really...
with me some
Oh
more.
god. Oh, this room. No, leave me alone. Come here. Come on.
Don't move now.
Oh shit! Oh god. Okay. Crouch, crack. Oh god. Wait, she's not gonna come here? No? Oh, why am I freaking out? Silver ring. Okay. Take the face. What do I do with the faces? I have no idea. Oh wait, I think I do. Hold on. I need the 4 ladies, right? For the one puzzle in the beginning?
I was worried my sisters had gotten to you first.
No, please! Oh my god, someone's biting me!
Yes!
It's a powerful attack. Cassandra's hot? They all look the same!
But I can use the malicious. Don't move now.
Okay. How do I break that? With a powerful attack. Okay, this is mine. No! Oh!
You've ruined the hunt! Curse you! You bastard!
Stop, leave me alone! Oh! Oh my god!
You're done! You will not get away!
Jesus Christ! The child there? What do you mean? They all look the same! They all died the same too!
Crazy witch.
He's the right hand out. Crystal torso. Okay. Nice. Now, where do I go? Now, where do I... Oh! What's this? Not to animal school. Oh, hey, look! You killed a boss. You can never date twin and triplets? Never. They're gonna get jealous of me, you know? They're gonna fight over me. Okay, now how do I get out here? Pleasure, joy, sorrow. Oh, do I put this? No. I have to put a head here, right? For that to open? Oh. Why not? No shit, won't know the difference? I fucked the wrong brother. What do you mean? It causes issues. Okay, if I take this, I can't leave. My goal is to escape the castle. Okay. It's red, that means I'm missing something. But if I take this... Wait, no, I took it. What am I missing in here? There's something I didn't grab. What is it though? Sorrow? No. It has to be the mask of pleasure. For it to open. I don't want to go back though. I think I have to go back. Anything I'm missing here? No. Okay. Am I gonna fight her? Mother? Main hall. Look, mommy? That ass? She's so thick. She is so thick. What's she doing?
The entire bloodline of House Domitresk is done in by the likes of you.
Oh, she's coming up here? How do I kill her? Do I fight her? What do I do? What do I do? Go touch her butt? You want me to touch her butt? Okay. Okay. Tasting room. Wait, what is this? Did I grab that? There's a gray marking here. Oh, I need a... Wait, why is there a gray marking here? Oh. Oh wait, no. This is a door. But it's locked. Oh. Okay. Back at this door. Chamber of Solace. I'm missing something. It's red here. That means I'm missing. I forgot to pick something up. What did I forget though? Oh yeah, because I was fighting the sister, right? Here. Of course I forgot something. This? Ah, just that. Okay. Can I go here? No. Oh, can I make more? No, I don't have enough. Oh god. Oh fuck! Wrong gun! Okay. body in there? I wish they dropped like ammo or something instead of coins. It'd be so much more useful. Okay. Anything here? No? Oh! Crystal torso. Oh, code win? Oh, this is where I fought her. Wait, did I not grab that when she died? Wait, did I just... Is that... Oh god. Whoops. My bad. Okay. Oh, let me go back. Let me go back. Here. Nothing here. Okay, over here. This door. How did I get here? How do I get here? Oh wait, what's this? Handgun ammo. I need fire, right? Fire? Oh, pipe bomb. Okay. Okay, okay. Go there. Get fire. Can you reach it? Can you reach it? You could reach it. There. Okay, no. Go over there. Over there. Fuck. I can make them hit each other, right? Go over there. Hit each other, please. You guys are literally touching. Oh my god, I gotta swing you. Together. Together. Fuck! Why are you guys doing together? Oh god, okay. I'm gonna smack this one. And then I smack this. Literally! Fucking. Okay, one big swing. Nice. Oh. Okay, my timing is terrible. One big swing like this. I needed to swing like up and down. Can I just push it? Okay. It stops! Okay. Push this one. Fucking touch it, please! Oh my god, why is this so hard? Okay. Touch, please. Touch. Touch. Okay. I swing you like this. Why do you always stop? Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna shoot it. Oh, this one. Oh my god! That's why he gave me bullets. That's why he gave me ammo. Okay, eyes. Combine with this. Gemstone. Ingrid's necklace. Azure eye ring. Can I combine these? Crystal skull, wooden statue angel. Is that it? Oh, shotgun ammo. Crystal fragments. Okay, now where have I not gone? Up here. I've gotten everything here. Had to know bullets. Okay, I wasn't trying to, okay? It was a last resort. We're back here. Kitchen. Dining room. Dining room? Courtyard. Do I go to the courtyard? Yeah? Right? Okay. Took the head from there. And I went here already, right? I went here already. Opera Hall. Okay, the only place I haven't been is the dining room. Why is it still red? What am I missing? What am I missing here? Is she gonna show up? What am I missing here? Why is it red here? Oh shit, what is that? How did I get that? Did I shoot it? Oh my god! Don't leave me alone.
The entire bloodline of House Domitresk is done in by the likes of you?
I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to. Okay. Opera Hall or library? What's the library? It says library. What am I missing? 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 Am I missing a treasure here? Okay, the what is it? 5 bells of this chamber ring out. 5 bells of this chamber. Where's the 5 bills? Oh, there's one outside! Okay, okay. I see it! There's one out there. Oh! Oh! Fuck, I'm running. No! Give me ammo! Did you find the fat guy already? The merchant guy? No, I have not. Sing. Okay. I got 2. There's one in the courtyard. Where's the other? Oh, is that the bill? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I see it. Okay. Okay, my timing is terrible. Did I get it? And then one over there in the courtyard. In the courtyard. Is that the courtyard? I need to sneeze, guys. Oh my god. Jesus Christ. How do I get over there? That's the courtyard, right? T? Bed chamber. That's the bed chamber? Her bed chamber? How do I get over there? Huh. How do I get over there? Okay. I gotta go all the way down. So I need ammo. Leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone.
It's a pleasure to see you safe. How were things?
Hello.
No sign of Rose.
I'm so sorry it turned out that way. Well, you'll find your way to her once you're out of this castle.
Thanks.
Do you have need of anything for the road ahead? Welcome, welcome. You're sure to find something new.
Oh! Oh, am I doing this right? I just gotta move it, right? It moves by itself. Oh! Ah! Okay! Okay, I get it, get it, get it. No, no! Okay. Slowly. No, no, no. To the left a little, left a little, left a little, okay, left a little, okay. Fuck! Wait, there's a hole right in front. Okay. Okay, now how do I how do I get around it? For sure there's a wall, right? There. Okay. rifle. There we go. Crimson Skull. Nice.
Oh, yes. I'm skilled at all sorts of weapons modifications.
Crystal fragment.
And will do them for a small fee.
And I don't need this, right? Do I need this? Valuable. Anything that says valuable, I don't need them for sure, right? Crystal torso. Wooden statue, angel. Ingrid's necklace. Azure eye ring. Crimson skull. Damn! 8K? I'll sell it, yeah. I'm rich!
Splendid. Do you know its worth?
Okay. You know what I'm gonna do, guys? You know what I'm gonna do? We're gonna upgrade my gun. Wait, there's only 2 upgrades? It's only 2? 2 levels? Oh no, there's 4 levels. But I can't do it. Why? Rate of fire, ammo capacity.
One moment, please.
Might as well do everything, right? And then...
What? Ah, it's fine. All finished.
Okay.
What are you buying? Just something an old friend of mine used to say.
Might as well get this.
Ah, so you noticed that.
And then... What is this? Sniper rifle ammo? Shotgun ammo. Recipe for shotgun ammo.
Yes, I can see why you'd be interested in that.
Should I take this too? Is this better? Bonus from the trauma pack. Oh. Albert. This is Wesker's gun. It's fine.
Oh.
Okay, I'll take this. For Lemmy, hair trigger. For shotgun. Yeah,
I hope this one makes itself useful.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's okay. Wait, it's $0 for handgun ammo.
Aha.
Okay. Wait, this is a lot cheaper. Was that always this cheap?
An interesting selection.
Oh, is it the first purchase? Okay. First purchase, not free. Okay. I might as well take this too, right?
Huh?
Supplies, gunsmith.
Have a wonderful adventure.
Alright. I'll save my game. I'm gonna save one more time. First one. Alright, you know what? This is a good time to end my stream, right guys? Good ending. It's been a good 3 hours. Woohoo! Woohoo! No. Actually, hold on. Skill diff? But the all-nighter. It's okay, I'll wake up early. I'll wake up early, I promise. Alright. Oh god! Welcome back, Itoshi. Welcome back. Will you do it? Yes, I will. Yes, I will. Yes, I will. Should I find someone to raid? Who is on? Also, you still need to stab the red barrel. No. I'm not gonna stab the red barrel. You know what? I think I'm just gonna end it. You need to shoot the ghost? No, I'm not gonna shoot the ghost. I'm not gonna shoot the ghost. Alright. Thank you all for coming by. Thank you all for joining. My next Resident Evil stream will probably be Saturday, not gonna lie. Tomorrow I'm gonna be streaming again, but it's gonna be a collab with Chaos holding his wifey. And then I might stream Monday too with Chaos holding his Soki. We will see. Chaos, okay? No. Guys, you won't get the achievement. It's okay. Anyways, thank you all for coming by. Thank you for all the follows. Thank you for the resubs. Thank you all for joining. And on the 24th, yeah, on the 24th too. Alright, thank you everyone for joining. I hope you have a good day. Make sure you lock your doors, lock your windows, lock your closets. Cause I'm gonna lurk. Bye bye. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.